we have probably changed the educational system. We won't all go back 100% to the way it was. We've been forced to adopt more virtual and what I would say more collaborative approaches to it from early childhood, kindergarten, all the way through higher ed and even into the corporate space. When you think about it, we were facing at the height of this, 1 billion learners globally have been moved out of the classroom and have been displaced. And when you think about that's a significant shift in the way in which we teach, learn, connect, and grow. And as we start to think about how do we return safely, knowing that we're balancing the importance of that social and that collaborative interaction with our children and students and in the classrooms while also creating safe environments. So I wanted to just take a moment to reflect that there's a lot going on that's really shaping what we are going to be talking about today and what we're all personally experiencing. One of my favorite quotes, and I actually got this, first introduced to this in graduate school when I was focusing on systems and systems design thinking. But I think it actually coming forward has been really relevant for what we've been experiencing in the past 6 months, very specifically. And I've added to it, so it's attributed to Alvin Toffler, coming out of his book, Future Shock. He talks about the illiterate of the 21st century. It's not really those who cannot read and write, but those who cannot learn, unlearn, and relearn. And many of us have had to definitely deal with that recently. But I would also add those who cannot connect, reconnect, and collaborate with others. So it's not just about being the continuous learner, but it's about being a connected learner as well and adding into that layer. And that's really where I think the confluence of design and technology come in. And the idea behind that technology is we increase our ability to be able to connect with others, to collaborate with others. It's important to remember it's about the human and the system and the place, and we're trying to enable more meaningful connections. But it can also get pretty chaotic if you don't plan for it well as you're going through it. We're going to talk more and explore that, but I really like that quote because it kind of helps me kind of recenter on what are we trying to do in our organizations today. It's not just create that continuous, but that connected learner as well. So taking a look at this, many of you I'm sure have probably seen the Fourth Industrial Revolution, following up with that kind of futurist thinking, kind of identifying the evolution and how work has taken place as you start from the 1.0 to the 2.0. And we're really kind of coming out of this 3.0 where it's really been around the mechanization, more around the introduction of computers and the online and the web, moving into this 4.0, which is really the connected nature of it, the Internet of Things, and that's really what we're coming into. And it's giving rise to several things. When we think about the business, you're seeing it's giving rise to, the digital consumer. So if you think about the business side, the digital consumer, the digital enterprise, and then the digital operations. And then so from the learning side, to kind of mirror that, what we're looking into is the rise of the digital learner, the digital learning enterprise, and the digital learning operations. And what I'm really trying to call out the difference here is that I think it's pretty straightforward when we talk about the digital learner, folks that are going through and creating meaningful and valuable learning experience, taking accountability for that, but we're going to wrap around them an enterprise, a system that makes it available so they can get to what they need when they need it most. And that's one thing, but it's also the operations sides are how are we taking data and information in order to actually not only prove that what we have out there in the enterprise is working, but also to improve it, to be able to drive into it, and even extend it into getting into predictive behaviors, getting deeper into how we're actually enabling and supporting them through the enterprise around that. So it's kind of bringing those three layers together in that learning system. And I think it's a really important way to kind of keep in our mindset is when we think about the role of technology in the ecosystem, it's really coming back to not only provide that wraparound experience, we're taking the learning to them instead of having them come into the learning space. How do we get it next to them? But it's also about how do we actually learn what we know about them, their interactions with them, and help create something that gives a return on that energy and investment they've put in the system. When we think about, the traditional paradigm has really been disrupted. We think of common structures looking at the work, the worker, and the workplace. And when you think about the work in and of itself, it kind of had a shelf life. We came in, we knew what our job was. We were given, the organization was able to map out, here's the training you need, do this, complete this, then you're going to go out and do your job. And what we're finding is that the shelf life of a structured role or job is getting much shorter. And it's actually changing or evolving so quickly that it's really hard to kind of constantly be rolling out new training. So what the change is now, you see consistently or continuously evolving and changing in what the job is. And I don't know exactly what the job of tomorrow may be. I know some of the core skill components that are coming into it, but what the actual role or function may be may vary differently from what it is today. When you think about the worker themselves, historically, the relationship was you came in, we gave you the training as the organization, you then took the work, and then you went out, the training, and then you went out and you did the work. And that was a relationship with the organization. Given to the change in the evolving, not only the environment, but also the skills that we need to be able to do this, learners are having to take a much more active process. They need to step in and start really owning their learning journey, because it's too slow for the organization to figure out what the change is, plan the change, roll out that change out, get it done, and then have it ready to go. Because by the time you've gone through and prepared all the materials for the new system, the system has changed again. So the idea is that we have to bring in the workers into the learning system, and they take accountability for that journey, which means we need to shift and teach them not only how to be able to do that, how to construct, how to think, how to take advantage of the enterprise that's wrapped around them, but we also need to make sure that that enterprise is really set up with the affordance for them to easily be able to connect with it, get what they need out of it. And then the last one is really looking at the workplace in and of itself is only becoming more complex. You're seeing that it is not only is it multidimensional in terms of skills, ability, business context being brought in to solve problems, but you're also looking at multi-generational as well. It has become more complex, and the paths to how you're going to get peers for enablement or support or learning assets or learning components to help me get better at my job is just getting more complex. And that's where, you know, the technology and the system can help do that with a really good design. You have a better chance of surviving and managing through this disruption.